Welcome to the CRM Strategy session. Up till now, we've discussed a few areas of customer relationship management. First, to consider the variety of changes that have taken place in society up till now, to structure the forces that businesses are under and what has given rise to the customer concept and the focus on customers as a major business strategy. And after that, we've also talked about how there are different inputs to whether or not customers are satisfied and whether and when the improvements in their satisfaction will result in repeat business and when that will produce additional profits. Today's session, we are looking at how companies can develop strategies. What does it mean really to create a strategy for the series of customer relationships that a given organization would be managing? So today's session will focus on four key areas. First, we'll define what the goals will be for a customer relationship management strategy. Secondly, we'll look at the four components of a CRM strategy that we'll need to consider. Third, we'll look at the four steps that are involved in developing a CRM strategy for an organization. And then fourth, we'll look at the elements of a defined CRM strategy. So in order for firms to be effective in the contemporary business environment, it's important for them to develop a strategy for how they're going to manage those customer relationships. That's this concept of the strategic CRM. The idea is that the firm wants to better understand their customers so that they will be able to shape their interactions with their customers and ultimately develop more valuable customer relationships. So formally, the goal is to deepen knowledge about customers, to shape interactions based on that knowledge, to maximize the lifetime value of customer relationships. So some of the things that would be areas where we might have this additional knowledge would be we want to better understand what customers expect, we want to understand what customers value, we want to then use that knowledge to develop competencies as an organization to create these sustainable and hard to imitate competitive advantages. The idea is that if we can understand some key knowledge about why our customers are buying our product and we can then deliver that value to them to align all of our messaging around how we're providing that value to them, then there's no reason why they would be going elsewhere, because we'd be developing that relationship and providing that source of value for them in a way that it's very hard for another organization to step in and disrupt the relationship between our customer and our business. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to define a strategy that is going to help us to accomplish that goal. And so in order to do that, we can consider the different components of a defined strategy that need to be taken into consideration. We can really think about this as being sort of creating the space necessary for the strategy to come to fruition. So we think about this as really being components. First, there's a people piece, technically customer management orientation, called people. And so we can think about this as really being to what degree does the organization have values and beliefs and that affirm that our core objective as an organization is to meet our customers' needs and to provide value for our customers. So this could be at the top management level of an organization, that to what degree are they committed to the concept of the customer being at the center of the organization versus other management orientations that could be at play. And this is basically a recognition, starting with top management, but also really going down to other parts of the organization, to be thinking about, for one, are our customers' needs what we would call heterogeneous? So, meaning that there are different customers that have different needs, or does management sort of think about their customers all having the same needs? If the top management recognizes that different customers have different needs, and to better identify which customers have which needs, then that would be considered an organization that has a relatively high customer management orientation. So the idea is that in order for effective customer management to take place, there is going to be a required alignment across the organization, across sales, across the IT area, across accounting, across marketing, that really need to agree and to recognize that when we provide a lot of value for our customers, that's when our organization succeeds. And so that's going to be one component of having an effective CRM strategy. That's one piece. We'll call this part of the total system here. There are going to be two others that we'll add as components of it, and then the third will be the actual guts of it. So the second one that we'll discuss is the integration and alignment of the organization's processes. So we can think about this: to what degree does the business have systems to implement a customer management orientation across the company? So we know that there's going to be parts that have to go across many different areas of the organization, supply chain and marketing and accounting and others, to make sure that the information flow happens correctly, and that the right information gets in the hand of the right people, so that the actual customer insights can determine the choices that the firm makes. So the idea is to incorporate the customer's needs and organization's goals in as they're designing products and as they're delivering products, as they're designing services and as they're delivering services. And the other idea is that if you're trying to deliver value to customers that you've identified value the thing that you're providing to them, that core insight would be driving all of the processes of the organization. If we know what the customers are looking for, then we can use that to inform the choices that we make. But the actual processes of the business have to actually align with this. So one example of this would be that Whole Foods had identified that they were collecting a tremendous amount of data that was useful for identifying what customers were likely to purchase across many of the different stores. But their corporate culture was organized around having store level employees making many of the core business decisions about what to stock on particular shelves, and that's an important piece of that corporate culture. So when they were developing some additional insights from customer data, they knew that it wouldn't be successful to have all that information sitting in a corporate headquarters office somewhere, and coming from a sort of top down. This is how we're going to be stocking our shelves. That's not how it works there. So what they determined they needed to do was to create systems that could generate those insights in a way that the frontline employees could access as they were stocking shelves. So they actually had some of the information delivered in a readable and understandable format, so they could understand which products are being used in which places, so that when they're making decisions about what goes where, they can use those insights. And so it's really about aligning the processes with the main goal of generating value for customers within the context of the corporate and an organizational culture. So this we're going to call this a process, because it's really about it's not just do we want to add value for customers, but really how do we do it? Does the information get in the right hands? The third piece is what we could call technology alignment. So that in addition to the business processes that need to make decisions based on the customer data, there's this additional piece where the technology needs to be organized and accessible in a way that it can support those business processes, so that we're able to really generate the value to the customers. So for this technology alignment piece, it's all about collecting and storing and processing the relevant customer information, making sure that the correct databases are linked in the right way. And we want to make sure that there is enough a capacity to actually leverage the data so that the information is actionable. Um, the idea is to then act on the intelligence and to determine technology that is both sufficiently efficient and effective to solve the actual problems the organization faces. And so it's really about sort of making sure that you have the right databases in place. The right databases are serving the data to the people who need it to be able to make the right kinds of choices on that data based on the organization's processes. And the idea is that there is each of these would be sort of the components of the strategy that the firm is trying to open enough ability of the firm to meet the customer needs. But then the key to actually delivering that and actually succeeding in that is the implementation piece. And that's really where the rubber meets the road in terms of there's a past way the firm has been doing these things, but and then perhaps there's a new vision for how we're now going to be slicing and dicing our customers' data to provide value for them. But okay, well, how exactly is that going to actually play out? It might help convince more people in the organization that adding customer value helps everyone at the organization to it is going to involve some kind of changing processes to make use of that data, and then it's going to also involve some way of organizing the data so that the data can inform the choice that the firm makes. But to actually then make those changes in those three areas, there actually needs to be an implementation to bring that into reality. One thing that's worth pointing out here, one thing that we would often talk about during my Deloitte days, we would refer to the kinds of business consulting engagements that we would do. We would often talk about these three aspects of um, the, the, the change that the organization needed to go through. And we would often break it down into these three categories of people, process, and tools, and that happens to align well with this broader understanding of strategic customer relationship management components. So, suppose you want to develop a strategy. What would that process actually look like? It's really 4 steps. And so perhaps your organization already has a strategy. Perhaps you're thinking about creating a new one. Perhaps you're saying, okay, we want to divide our customers into different groups to understand which of our customers are the most involved and engaged with our company's values, and we want to understand which ones are likely to be the most valuable customers going forward, so that we can provide offers that will appeal to each of our different customer groups. So suppose we wanted to kind of create a strategy that looks like that, or some other strategy. What we might do is we would start by ensuring that we have the sufficient commitment to actually change our strategy. This is important because a lot of organizations would have competing interests within the organization, where some might be particularly interested in developing a CRM strategy, but for some this just might not be their sort of managerial orientation. And so for any given CRM strategy project, there needs to be enough commitment to successfully deliver the project or the scope that we're envisioning. So I'm going to call this enterprise-wide commitment. It's not saying that the entire enterprise needs to be completely on board with CRM philosophy as really being the only way to see things, but what we do need is enough enterprise-wide commitment to successfully deliver that project. So this could be from top-down management, making sure that you have enough managerial buy-in to do things like provide a budget. You need enough buy-in from the bottom-up sort of users of the new platform. Like if you alienate your entire sales force based on some new tools that are really hard for them to use, and you didn't include some kind of training program in the process, they're going to rebel, and then it's going to result in the project not succeeding. So again, this doesn't have to be that everybody needs to buy into all of CRM all the time. It's just there needs to be enough buy-in to be able to successfully deliver the next iteration, the next step in that CRM strategy. And oftentimes there would be a sort of iterative nature of this, where each successful CRM project helps build confidence in the ability for CRM to help the organization to succeed. So you have top-down management, bottom-up users. We need some kind of budget to successfully deliver the project. A dedicated team to in mind for the purposes of actually deploying this project. And what you would ultimately want to be doing also in the spirit of this is to uh, promote the positive developments within CRM, even if they're incremental improvements initially. It helps prove the concept to others in the organization who might be used to dealing with a shorter term horizon. So, of course, CRM, we're talking about building these relationships and building the lifetime value, the maximizing the future possible revenue that you could receive from relationships that may or may not come to fruition, that building the trust of the organization, that building relationships with customers results in improving the position of the company. That's an important thing to consider. So first piece is having enough commitment to actually deliver the project. Second piece is to build a team. And so this will involve a cross-disciplinary team, a cross-functional team would be another way to put that. You would have some folks from management, IT, sales, marketing, financial, an external CRM expert. Each of them have an important role in the project team and an important perspective that needs to be incorporated into a successful CRM strategy, because this is, in a sense, an inherently interdisciplinary undertaking where these multiple perspectives are necessary for success. So management, for example, would be tasked with leading the project, ensuring the motivation of the team, making sure that each team member is being adequately supervised. IT would make sure that the goals of the project are going to be feasible either under the current technological environment or with reasonable improvements to the technology. And we'll talk more about technology in other sessions. Then there's like sales, marketing, kind of components. There might be a customer service component too. The idea is that this can help provide that perspective from folks who are working within those particular areas. So you want to understand, what does the sales team, um, uh, what are they doing currently? What kind of insights do they have that aren't otherwise getting promoted to top management? How is the sales team going to react if we propose changing the type of information that they have access to? You'll want marketing to be able to provide some insights about some new ways that we could be slicing and dicing the data and thinking about additional ways of segmenting customers and that kind of thing. Or developing a strategy for acquiring new customers. And again, kind of acting as that liaison between the marketing function and the CRM team. And of course, customer service, you want to really understand what is the temperature in the customer service division of the company. What are some of the major problems that are arising? What is known within the customer service division that may not be currently captured in the data, and in terms of information that's getting up to top management, that kind of thing. You also want to have a financial or accounting on the team to help um, communicate some of the results of an effective CRM using terms that those functions in the company can understand. So being able to work on the ROI calculations, to communicate using financial language what the CRM is doing, and also to help understand what the expectations of financial investors and are for providing the resources that would be necessary for increasing the CRM investment. And so if the company is going to be continuing to invest in this area, the financial team can help make that case and relay between the financial side of the business and the CRM side. Last last member, and a very important member of the CRM project team, so you often would bring in an external CRM expert. This can help provide an objective voice, whereas other members of the team may have vested interests in in particular outcomes of the project. The external CRM expert can can help provide that independent perspective, and can also help give some ideas about what are some of the things that other firms are doing to build their CRM strategies that the home organization could consider doing. That's the second part, is building this cross-functional CRM project team. Third, we'll analyze the business requirements. So what's the current state of the business? What are the problems that the company is currently facing at the highest levels? Where are the pressures that are being faced? Do we have a shortage of cash at the moment? Are we alienating some key customers? What exactly is the situation that we're in? And you can imagine that when you have this cross-functional team that sort of that has perspectives being offered from many different silos of the organization, these can be incorporated into better understanding. Well, what is the actual situation that we're in that we need to improve? And so we can help set the company's goals based on the information that comes from the conversation from multiple of these parties. So what are we actually trying to accomplish with the CRM? And then at that point, then we have the ability to define the strategy. Because now that we have enough buy-in from the business that we're willing to examine our CRM strategy, we have the resources to spend the time to evaluate that. We have a team from multiple perspectives to evaluate from their position and from their point of knowledge and from the context that they have within the organization, that together they can talk about what the actual situation the business is in, and to figure out what we're trying to achieve as a goal. And then we can work toward actually defining the CRM strategy. So what does that defined CRM strategy actually look like? So a defined strategy, it's going to have multiple components. The first is going to be a value proposition. And this is, you can think about this as being the ability of the organization to meet customer needs. So like, what is it that the customers value exactly? What does the company promise? And then what does the company sort of deliver currently? What are the offers that the company does toward that promise? So if you're defining a new strategy, you might be saying, well, we're gonna now offer some of these new products in these particular areas, or we're gonna offer communication based on what we've promised. We might want to update what we understand, what customers value. Maybe want to iterate and evolve what the way that we conceive of the different types of customers that we're serving, and then why each of those groups of customers tends to purchase from us. And then we can examine what our communications are to each of those groups of customers. What are we promising, and then what are we actually offering based on what we have? So that's sort of the first sort of piece is what we're communicating to the customer. The second is the business case. So this is sort of a value proposition to the business itself, whereas the value proposition to the customers is value proposition. The business case is really, why does it make sense for the business to change what it's doing? We want to meet the expectations on investment. So investors are going to have a particular idea for what rate of return they can expect. We're going to demonstrate that this will increase the economic value to our current customers, or maybe we'll create some new customers from referrals based on the new strategy that we use. We want to improve our effectiveness, or maybe we'll reduce costs from learning better about what our customers need, so that we're not trying to deliver everything to everybody, but we can tailor each product to each customer depending on what their actual needs are. And so we're basically saying, well, how does that wind up affecting the bottom line in a way that meets the organization's interests? Third, we can look at the customer strategy. So how are we actually going to build and manage the portfolio of customers? This could be that we want to better understand our customers' needs. This could, and by doing some market research on them, or having some interviews and that kind of thing. We may want to do some research on our competitors to understand the competitor context and what kinds of offerings they're receiving from those competitors. Perhaps we can do some more work with the current customers that we have. Maybe we can cross-sell, or we can upsell them based on what we can understand are the real driving points of where they were purchased. We can also look at improving our customer management competency. We can sort of customize our services, or customize our products, or customize our communications, or change prices. So there's a lot of areas where we can actually improve our management of the actual portfolio of customers. And so what does that actually look like? What are we actually going to do to create that? Fourth, we have the enterprise transformation plan. So what does that actually look like for the organization to go from what it was doing to what it will now be doing to improve, to provide enhanced customer value? So this will be different business processes. Perhaps will be organized differently. The flow chart could potentially change. Maybe the data needs to flow in a different direction so that the data can actually be in front of the right people, so they can make the right decisions and improve the the value that they're able to provide for customers. Maybe we need to change the location, or adjust our facilities in some kind of way. If we have a application architecture, maybe we need to change so that we can make it align better with what customers' expectations about what process they'll be following in order to be able to complete the purchase. And maybe there's some changes we need to make to the technology infrastructure too. Fifth and finally, is a need to consider other stakeholders, because when we're talking about changing how we're going to be conducting business, we have a great plan, but this can potentially disrupt the expectations of other stakeholders too. So even if we're now delivering better on what our customers consider to be important, we still may receive some pushback from any number of other groups that we need to make sure that we're managing those relationships effectively as well. So it could be suppliers or employees, management, competitors, other aspects of the business environment, such as regulators, key partners for the business, and the product. And so kind of as we have the strategy we're thinking about doing, that it's often useful to receive the input from these other stakeholders in order to evolve and improve the strategy as well. So that provides a high level view of what could be the most important elements of a CRM strategy. In this session, we've reviewed what the goal of it is, to deepen knowledge about your customers so we can shape the interactions and ultimately improve the value of those relationships. We've looked at these four key components: the people, processes, and tools that are necessary to support an evolved customer relationship strategy. And then of course the actual implementation piece is the next piece of that. That implementation side we'll cover in the next session, lecture. And so what we've talked about in the other parts of today are really to think about the four different steps, how you have to have enough buy-in to be able to implement this project, build a team, analyze the business requirements, and define the strategy. And then once you have the strategy, it's basically going to include some statement on how we're delivering value to customers, how we're delivering value to the organization, and then what's the actual technique we're using to improve the delivery of value to our customers. And those different techniques that can be used is something that we're going to be talking about in a lot more detail as the future sessions go on in this class. Then I'll talk about then how does a business actually change, and that's really where we're going to leave this conversation for now. We've talked about how a CRM strategy could be defined. Next, we want to consider, well, once you have a CRM strategy in mind, what are the considerations that an organization wants to keep in mind as it attempts to implement that strategy? So that's what we'll cover next.